Now, when we did the work breakdown structure, really what we're focusing on is what are the activities we have to do? But it's not really about the order in which we need to do them. But eventually you have to think about order. And that's what sequencing is. And so you start with your work breakdown structure. And what I want to do is to take a couple minutes to illustrate how you do it. Now, you can start at the beginning of your project and work your way forward, or you can start at the end of the project and work your way backward. One of the things I found is when I do sequencing, if I start at the end and work myself backwards, I actually find more missing activities. And so in my demonstration here, I'm going to do that. I'm going to start at the end of my project. Let's check it out. So I go to the end here, and what do you think I'm going to do last? First of all, actually, I'm going to get rid of my headers here because I'm not going to actually use those headers. What do you think I do last? Download pics, do laundry, pay bills, or unpack? Well, I'm probably going to pay bills last because sometimes it takes a while for the bills to actually get there. And then, doing laundry after unpacking, that's generally considered a best practice, so I could do that. Downloading pics is maybe dependent on unpacking, but nothing more than that. Developing the report before we present it. And so just to see what that's starting to look like, is I could draw my lines like this. Okay. Now let's look at our in Florida portion. Okay, now typically what we would do is buy groceries up front. So I'm going to put that early on here. And then the way we had it scheduled was the astronaut dinner was the actual day before the scheduled launch, and then after that we're going to spend some time at Kennedy Space Center. And then as far as Disney buying tickets before actually going, good idea. Disney Day 1, Disney Day 2. And then I've got the put on the lotion before we go swimming. So the way this looks is something like this. Now, I have to say, the way this would appear is that we could be in a pool at Disney watching the launch. Now, you think we could do that? Well, I think most people would say, no, you can't do that. But we could. Can you think of a way? No, not in a pool at night with binoculars, because that's not the launch experience we're looking for. But, could I go to watch the launch and my wife just hang out at the pool and we send our kids off with a service at Disney? Is that possible? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. Now, we wouldn't want to do it that way, but the reason I bring this up is when you're doing sequencing, what you want to look for, what are the possibilities? Even if you wouldn't want to do it that way, is it possible? And so there's some advantage to actually going through this process to look for that. So that's while we're in Florida. Let's look at before we go. Okay, now, stop email, you can do that anytime. We actually don't get a newspaper, so I can get rid of that. Now, there's certainly plenty of activities that I haven't added. I could be doing that at the same time. I've got our preparing, so for the education part, so I could develop a lesson plan, visit the library, and then study. Then I have a lot of the packing activities. It probably doesn't matter that much in what order that we pack things. We're probably not going to be packing swim toys. Well, maybe I'll keep that one in there because it could be that we would be packing some goggles. Develop a checklist and find the luggage. Probably go something like that. And then we have the reservations that we need to make. The book hotel, the book the rental car, the book airline tickets. And then what do you think we do first? We've got research launch dates, research rental cars, and research hotels. This is all about the launch, so we're going to do that one first. And so the way our network diagram or sequencing looks like, something like this. Now in reality, you're probably not going to do this on Post-it notes. You're probably going to be doing this in some sort of tool. But this is what tools like Microsoft Project and others like it do really, really well, is managing your sequencing. But just for the sake of understanding it, once we book our rental car, then we can do the education stuff. Just for the sake of understanding this process, I'm going to show it how it works with the Post-it notes. Now, I have to tell you, this is one of my least favorite things to do in project management. Not because it isn't important, because it's really, really important. But it's because you have this tension between how much detail do I put in here? Because the more detail you put, you can reflect reality more easily. But it becomes a project to manage the project. So it's worth asking the question, what's the advantage of going through sequencing and actually doing this? And what I find is, if we don't go through sequencing, our horizon for managing this project might be, well, what's going to happen this week or next week? We're not thinking further down the road. And that's a really important thing for project managers to be able to do, is to look further down the road, anticipate problems. Also, sometimes what doesn't look like it's possible to do, if we actually do sequencing, what we find is it is possible to do. Now, we might need some more people to do it, or we might need to rearrange some things, but it helps you understand, can we actually hit the date constraints that we've been given? It gives us, we're definitely along the lines of being able to answer that question much better. So I encourage you, spend time thinking through your project. After you've done your work breakdown structure, after you've done your planning, to do sequencing and look at your dependencies and look at them long and hard of, is there another way to do this? Can we do it in parallel so that we can bring the time frames down? If you do a good job of this, it can help you much better manage your project.